Have you ever thought how much easier life would be if mosquitoes didn't exist? Or if we could just get rid of lizards, cockroaches, and mice altogether? Sounds great, right? But here's the truth. That's not possible. And even if it were, it would actually harm us. So what happens is in nature, every organism depends on another for food. Let's take a simple example. A grasshopper eats grass. The grasshopper is eaten by a frog. The frog is eaten by a snake. And the snake is eaten by an eagle. When the eagle dies, decomposers decompose it and turn it into nutrients, which are again used by the grass. So this is one of the simple examples. In science, we call it a food chain. But nature is not that simple. In a perfectly balanced ecosystem, one organism eats more than one organism, and it is eaten by more than one organism. This creates a complex network of food chains, and in science, we call it a food web. In a food web, everything is interconnected and dependent on each other. If we try to eliminate even one species, it would disturb the balance. I will discuss exactly how, but first, let's see the main components of this complex food web, so it becomes easier to understand why every organism is important. So, at the bottom come the producers. They form the basic foundation of any ecosystem. They capture most of the light energy reaching the Earth. In fact, they absorb about 90% of it. Producers make their own food through photosynthesis. They include plants, grasses, and all green organisms. They are the most abundant component of the ecosystem. So now, as you know, not all organisms are able to make food. They depend on producers, which means on plants and on other animals as well. These are called consumers. Consumers are heterotrophs and consume the energy that is already fixed in the ecosystem. Actually, based on what they eat, we can categorize them as primary, secondary, and tertiary consumers. Primary consumers are at the base. They are the organisms that eat plants, digest them, and get fixed energy from the chemical bonds by breaking them. They are mostly herbivores and include giraffes, goats, cows, buffalo, and all other plant eaters. Primary consumers are less in number as compared to producers. This isn't because of competition, but because of energy loss. When energy moves from one level to the next, most of it is lost as heat, movement, or waste. Only about 10% of the energy from plants actually reaches the herbivores. That's why fewer primary consumers can survive compared to the large number of producers that support them. Next come the secondary consumers that prey on primary consumers. They are mostly carnivores. Again, they are less in number than primary consumers because energy keeps decreasing at each level of the food chain. Only a small portion of energy from herbivores is transferred to these carnivores, which limits their population. They include lions, tigers, wolves, leopards, and hyenas. All of them feed on herbivores like cows, goats, and deer to get energy. Then come the tertiary consumers, the top predators of the food chain. They feed on secondary consumers and are usually large carnivores. They are very few in number because only a tiny amount of energy is left by the time it reaches this level. These animals sit at the top of the food web and have no natural predators. They include eagles, crocodiles, sharks, and humans, all of which feed on other carnivores or secondary consumers to gain energy. So what you see here is the ecological pyramid, a way scientists represent how energy and the number of organisms decrease at each level of the food web in an ecosystem. And this pyramid isn't just a diagram, it's a reflection of balance. Each level depends on the one below it. If one layer is disturbed, the entire structure weakens. That's why removing even a single species can set off a chain reaction throughout the ecosystem. So how does this create an equilibrium? Let's try to understand it through some examples and real-life incidents. So what happens if we try to eliminate one organism? Let's take an example. What if we remove cockroaches from the frame? The organisms that feed on them will face trouble finding food, because they're adapted to eat them. If we suddenly remove cockroaches, these predators have to struggle to find new food sources, and many of them simply can't adapt fast enough. Now, you might think, so what? That's just nature. It has nothing to do with us. But actually, it does. Cockroaches and other decomposers break down organic matter and return nutrients to the soil. Without them, soil fertility drops, and yes, that affects humanity directly. See, in nature, everything is connected. If you pull one thread, the entire web shakes. Here's a true story. Back in 1958, during China's Four Pests campaign, sparrows were targeted because farmers believed they ate too much grain. Millions of sparrows were killed. But soon after, the insect population exploded, crops were destroyed by locusts and caterpillars, and harvests dropped drastically. The campaign that was meant to protect crops actually caused massive famine. And here's another example. In Yellowstone National Park, USA, wolves were once hunted to extinction by the 1920s. Without wolves, deer populations exploded, stripping away vegetation and causing soil erosion. But when wolves were reintroduced in 1995, the balance slowly returned, trees grew back, rivers stabilized, and other species revived. That's how delicate the balance of nature really is. Remove one piece, and the whole system begins to collapse. Those were stories from the past, mistakes we thought humanity had learned from. But even today, we're repeating the same pattern, just in different forms. Take bees, for example. Tiny, harmless, yet vital. They pollinate nearly 3/4 of the crops we eat. But pesticides and habitat loss are wiping them out, threatening global food security itself. Or look beneath the oceans. Overfishing has emptied vast waters of life. When top predators like sharks decline, smaller fish populations explode, coral reefs suffer, and marine ecosystems begin to collapse. And on land, deforestation continues to tear apart natural homes. When forests vanish, animals lose shelter, rainfall patterns shift, and even the air we breathe gets thinner in quality. It's not just history, it's happening right now. The balance of nature is once again being tested, this time, by us. What do we learn from all this? Every creature, from bees to lizards to even mosquitoes, plays a role in keeping nature balanced. When one disappears, the whole system begins to break. But it's not too late. Nature can still heal, if we stop destroying and start protecting. Because when we save nature, we save ourselves. This is the balance of life, and it's in our hands.